Hey folks, and welcome to a walkthrough tutorial of how to change the buttons on your Snackbox Micro from Junkfood Arcades. So as you can see, this micro has the old 3D printed buttons that have a little bit more of a grain to them. And here we have our new injection molding buttons, which are a lot smoother, and we are going to swap them out. Now, if you have the old option buttons in and you want to keep them there, and only change these buttons right here, there's a very easy way to do this. You can take a wire cutter or tweezers or really your fingers or anything and wedge it underneath, pull that out, and then line up these little nubs into your switch. And you just press right in. So if you're only changing the attack buttons and the directionals and not the option buttons, you can just do it from the front. However, if we're going to change the option buttons, we're going to flip our micro over and unscrew it. We're going to lift off this back plate and set it aside, and now we can see our PCB. So the thing holding the PCB in at the moment, as you can see, I can flip it around and it doesn't fall out, is the switches. So what you're going to do is take anything little. You can use a screwdriver, a chopstick, a pen, and you're going to push on the back of the insertion site of the switch. So these little middle dark circles, you're going to want to push up against and pop them out. So once we have all of our switches removed, our PCB is loose within the case. This is very important to note. There is nothing holding the option buttons in except for the PCB. So leaving our micro face down, we're going to carefully lift out the PCB and set it aside. Now we can see our option buttons, and I would like to note these are loose within the case. Nothing is holding them in, but you can go ahead and knock them out. As for putting them back in, you simply take the option button, shown here, and place it face down with the peg through the hole. Now that we have all of our option buttons inserted, they should sit flush within the case, and we are going to place our PCB back on top. I would like to reiterate that there is absolutely nothing holding your PCB and option buttons in at the moment, so this next part is very important. You're going to hold the PCB against the micro case, pushing down on it as you flip it over. It's very important that you're holding this together, or else your option buttons will fall out and they are very easy to lose. As for putting our other buttons back in, you're going to take a switch and place it on the rightmost and leftmost slots. This is what is going to secure your PCB into the case so you don't have to worry about it falling out anymore, and it's also going to align your USB hole here at the top. Let's go back to the switches with the original buttons on them that we popped out. So it's likely that they popped out like this, and the best way to separate your old button from your switch is, I suggest wire cutters, but you can really use your fingers. You're going to grab the inner piece of your switch and just pivot them apart. However, you can also really just use your fingers to pull them off of each other. So now we're going to take our switches and place them back in like that. We're going to flip it back over and screw in our black back plate at all 5 attachment points. With our back plate screwed back down, we're going to flip it back over and start reinserting our switches, just making sure that before we put them in, all of our gold and silver pins are straight and not bent, and if they are bent, you can simply push them back with your fingers, pop them into place. Now, if you already changed out your buttons before changing your option buttons, and you have it connected to your switch here, you can just push the switch in with the button already in place. Now that all our switches are back in, we're going to take our new buttons. I find the easiest way to insert them is to hold your micro up so that you can see where the little nubs on the button align with the switch, and simply pop them in. You're not really going to hear much of a click or a pop, but they should just sit nicely in there. And then as long as they are flush, when you look at the top of your micro, you are good to go. This is also just a reminder, if you happen to be changing your switches and nothing else, or your buttons, you can always take some wire cutters, grab hold of your switch, and pivot it out, and then pop it right back in. Now that all of our buttons and switches are back in, we can definitely feel the difference here and in the option buttons. All you're going to want to do is plug in your micro, give it a little test run, make sure everything is working properly and all your LEDs are on. If you do run into an issue where a button isn't activating anything, just take it out, make sure that your switch pins are straightened, and if they are bent, straighten them out with your fingers, and enjoy.